Every speaker here could probably tell you that you should be on Google+, and that's where they stop. They don't know what to say next, most of the cases. They don't know where to go next with that. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to give you a strategy to take advantage of Google+, to create an audience there, bring an audience there that builds your brand authority and increases your visibility in search. Now, as said, this is a this is a Game of Thrones built. The presentation is built around that. Just want to assure everybody there will be no spoilers, so if you're not up to date on the series, you don't have to run from the room or cover your ears. All right, let me tell you a little story. Once there was a coveted kingdom, and the kingdom we're talking about here is Google+. Again, you know, everybody says you should be on there for the SEO or something, but we don't know what to do with it. Now, there was a woman who knew that she should be queen. She's our brand, and she should be queen there. But the problem is she has no subjects in that land. If you don't have anybody there, who are you going to engage with? How are you going to build any authority in that place? So she knew that she would need to go to a distant land and gather her own army and bring it to that land. And this became her Google+ treasure list. These are the reasons, very quickly, why you want to do this, why you want to bring an audience there, why you want to have your own personal army to invade that land. First of all is brand authority. I believe that more and more Google is using Google+ brand pages as a hub to understand brands, to understand the trust and understand the engagement that people have with those brands, especially for small or medium brands that Google may not know as well or have much confidence. I think as the years go by, that's going to become more and more the case. The second is the search visibility. And that's something everybody kind of assumes is there, but it doesn't really work the way most people think it works. This post of mine at bit.ly/+1power explains the amazing power of when you get people engaging with your brand on Google+, particularly for personalized search, which more and more people are using. When people are logged into Google, how much you can influence their search. And last, the Google ubiquity, which means that Google+ is here to stay. It's now thoroughly integrated through all of Google, and especially all of online Google. And so this is like Google saying like, hey, come on in and play in our playground right in front of us where we can see what you're doing and see how people engage and react around you. I mean, that's an incredible opportunity that they don't give us every day. Little bonus here, this just came up in the last couple of weeks. As Jen mentioned, Google took away author photos from general search, but Google giveth, Google taketh away, Google giveth. And one of the things that they gave us on the same day that those disappeared, I started noticing that for brands that I follow on Google+, that I have circled, and if it's a brand in particular that I engage with regularly, that brand comes up in my search now, from relevant searches for their Google+ content, showing a brand photo next to it. That's a first in the US. They've been testing that elsewhere, but that's brand new. And I think this is just a small indication of where they're going, that more and more they want to be using, especially in the personalized area, the brands and people that matter to you get an elevation in that search. Come up higher and get this little photo, which is so coveted and now is so hard to get. So the strategy I'm going to lay out for you in the next few minutes, and I'm only going to have time to bullet point it for you, but we worked this with a medium-sized brand. And these are the results we got. During the campaign that we ran with this strategy, we raised their followers by about 3 times. Their Google+ communities went up by almost 8 times in membership. During the time of the campaign, we almost doubled their organic search traffic, and that traffic remained and continued to grow at a slower rate after that, so it wasn't just flash in the pan. We believe a large amount of that is attributable to their increased authority, which meant, and their increased number of followers, which meant that through personalized search, their Google+ content was getting pushed out as recommended and elevated content in the searches of not just those people, but their Google networks, which by the way includes not just who they follow on Google+, but things like their Gmail contacts. And we also raised their email signups by almost 3 times. Now, what is that conquest strategy? How do we get into that land of Google+? And far more importantly, how do we begin to build the engagement that I've proven builds authority on that site and that extends that authority out into all of Google? First, you've got to establish your home base. And that's your Google+ brand page. Now, it's very simple to set up a page, but you want to make sure that it's search optimized, particularly that you've got your important keywords in that story section, which is kind of the about section of your page, because Google uses those like keywords when people search for you, particularly on Google+, but probably to some extent also in Google personalized search as well. Make sure that page is verified, which if it's a generic brand page, means simply that you have a correct connection. The main URL on the brand page is to your official website. Link back to that official website from your page, from your home page of your site, and you should get that little check mark next to the URL, which means Google now knows the association. This is the right page for this website. Now you got to provision that base. There has to be something there. And that's two things. First of all, posting regular content there. That's like a no-brainer for social media, I hope. But particularly important here, not just so that when people come to look at your page, they see there's some there, but also because that content becomes the hub. As you get engagement from people, as they begin to trust your brand there, they +1 things, they comment on it, they share those posts. That's the content that gets elevated and pushed up in personalized search in their extended networks on Google. And then engage with others. Just a little tip, still very little known, is that for the last couple of years, Google Plus brand pages can follow people or other brands without being followed first, unlike a Facebook page. Just quickly, you want to use that carefully and judiciously. If you follow too many people too quickly from a brand page, it can get throttled for you. So just follow the people that you want to, but you can go out and start to engage with others and engage in Google Plus communities and get your brand known. Now, the next part of our strategy, and this is getting to the heart of it, is gathering our generals. Gathering the people who are going to be the attractors to bring people in, because the whole heart of my strategy here is if you can't find your audience on Google Plus or it's not easy for you, go out and bring the audience in there so that you can get that engagement, get that authority, get that influence with them. So we used subject matter experts. Now these are not the ones we used for the brand that I'm talking about, but I put these faces up there because they're the kind of people that, first of all, that Eric Enga and I have had on our own Hangouts for Stone Temple Consulting on air, and they're faces that are recognizable to everybody in this room. They're the kind of people that you'd want to engage with, that you'd want to see. So we set up for the brand a series of subject matter expert Hangouts, where people could, could know that they could come and see a live show. They could actually engage live in questions and answers with that expert. These are people that this audience wanted to see and wanted to connect with. So we built relationship with these generals so that they would. Next thing is send out the dragons, and that's what I'm calling our messengers. So the great thing about a Google Plus Hangout is people don't have to be on Google Plus to enjoy and watch the Hangout. You can promote it anywhere. So we went out into the brand's email list. We went out on their social media. We went out into all of their communities that they already had, to all the, hither and yon, the territories, and spread the word. Hey, this expert is going to be live on the air, and you can just come. You can come to YouTube, or you can come to the Google Plus event page. You can watch this. You can post your questions and engage with it. Great little trick, by the way. There's a app for Google Plus Hangouts on air called Comment Tracker that allows you to bring in live comments, not just from the Google Plus event, but from people watching it on YouTube, people commenting on posts that have shared about it. From anywhere, you can bring those in. You can actually put the questions and comments right up on the screen. So now you've got to call your army in. You've got to get in those troops to bring them in to invade the Google Plus land. And where we did that is in the Hangouts. Now, because I didn't have permission from the brand to use their Hangouts in the example here, I'm using our Hangouts. This is our Digital Marketing Excellence Show, where each week Eric Enga interviews people like Lee Odden and Rand Fishkin and people that you know in the industry. Now, in the brand Hangouts that we did, we included a strong call to action in each of these that was an invitation to dedicated communities that were set up for each Hangout, that were topically based around the subject of the Hangout, with the promise that the people, for some period of time, would be able to come to that community and engage with this expert further. So if you liked what you got, or if you didn't get your question answered in the hour-long show, just join this community, and you can actually interact with this expert, and of course with other people who love and want to talk about this particular topic. So now you've done two things. First of all, you've earned the respect of those people by associating subject matter experts they already respect and love with your brand. And they like you because you've made that possible. You've made a connection for them that they wouldn't have had otherwise. But now, the real secret here is you need to bring them into the land to conquer it. And the land that you're bringing them into is Google Plus communities, as I mentioned a moment ago. So again, we established in this particular strategy a dedicated community, topically very specific to the niche, the audience that the Hangout was about, and invited people to come in and join that community. We've turned them into Google Plus users. Now, this may be the only thing they ever do on Google Plus, is be a part of this community. But that's okay with us. We don't care if they use anything else on Google Plus if they're using us, and here's why. Because Google knows the brand association. If you create a community from your brand page, in other words, that community is associated with your brand page, then that community, the connection is there. Google even displays it right on the page. This is our Google Authorship and AuthorRank community. Now over 26,000 members, daily active, people posting questions. We have some of the best experts about Google Authorship in there answering people's questions. And that's owned now by our brand. And so Google sees that connection. Now we know that even stronger because up until a couple months ago, Google used to display the total aggregate +1s for a brand on the brand page. They replaced that recently with something called view counts because they just thought that was maybe a more useful metric. But the +1s are still being aggregated. They're still being counted, and I confirmed that with Google's John Mueller. What we discovered as we began to build these communities and get associated with some of the top marketing communities on Google Plus was that Google counts all of the membership of a community as a +1 for your brand. So like we took our brand page up from a few thousand +1s to over 150,000 +1s in like a month because we started creating and being a part of these communities and they're associated with our brand. But more importantly for what we're talking about here is that counts as engagement around your brand. And again, if you go back to that bit.ly article that I shared earlier, on the earlier slide, you'll see that I've proven that authority is raised on Google Plus by extension into Google Plus or Google personalized search by engagement. The more people that are actively engaging with you, the more authority that you have. And so that's the goal here. That's why we bring these people into a Google Plus community, because that's the goal here, is to raise our overall search visibility by influencing their networks. And so when we do this all, we're ready to rule the kingdom on Google Plus. First of all, this is a great strategy. You know, every time I hear somebody say, Google Plus is a ghost town, or my customers aren't there, or nobody in my business is doing anything on Google Plus, I think, this is what I want to say to these people. It's like, are you marketers? I mean, come on, this is like, that should be the one thing, like, nobody in my vertical has conquered this yet. I'm going to be the one. I'm going to be ahead of everybody else. We're 3 years into Google Plus, and in most verticals, it's still early adoption time. You can get in, do something like this, and take over and get that kind of influence into Google that your competitors aren't even thinking about now because they don't have time for Google Plus, right? So putting it all together here, what we're looking to do, if you forget nothing, if you remember nothing else, even if you don't do it with Hangouts like I did it or however you do it, the strategy here is to find a way to incentivize an audience to come into Google Plus and get associated with your brand, and then build, use the things that Richard taught you yesterday about building a vibrant community and fanning the flames there. All those things apply here, that you get those communities associated with your brand, you keep them active, you keep people engaged on them, and they are working for you to build up your authority further and to make you rule. So thank you very much. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Mark. I have a quick question for you.
Sure.
Is there a time when it doesn't make sense to be on Google Plus for a company, for a person, for a whatever? Can you think of a good reason not to be there?
Well, I think the number one reason would be like you just don't have the time. I understand that there are other networks right now which will get you, everybody talks about Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest might be in some cases, where that's going to get you more of a quick, fast gain on this. I see Google Plus as, however, necessary to be thinking about at some point as a long-term strategy. This is building, it's just increasing your visibility on Google. And if that's, if that's important to you at all, then I think it's something that you want to invest time in.
Excellent. That's a good one. Do we have any questions? Okay, we have a good question out here.
Hi, Mark. I really enjoyed that presentation. I actually really love Google+. What do you think is the most engaging type of post that you can put in your community?
Oh, that's great. Well, really, I would defer again to some of the things that that our other presenters have said here. They work there. One of the great things, one of the reasons I bet you love Google+, one of the reasons because of this is because you can create pretty rich content there. You can create almost blog post level content. Obviously the things that you've heard is, have a great image associated with the post is very, very good. But the kinds of content that you heard Dr. Pete talk about, that you heard people talk about yesterday, work there, where you're putting out interesting things, you're getting questions. One of the things for this particular strategy, and particularly that thing that I showed you earlier where they're showing the brand photo, is that seems to work best for not link shares, where you're sharing a link from somebody else's or even from one of your site posts, but with a content that is originally on Google+. And people love that. People also love longer form content on Google+ than on a lot of other social networks. So those are some things that work.
I also have one more question. So what do you think about those content aggregators that actually scrape Google+ and then point links back to Google+ communities and profiles? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it looks like anything else in link building. By the way, external links do build authorities of Google+ profiles and also brand pages. I have an article that I did last year for Search Engine Land that proves that. So internal authority within Google+, external links. So I would say just, the other things, be cautious. You want to do good link, but you can link build to your Google+ profile and pages, but you'd want to be smart about that. You want to make sure you're getting good quality links coming into that.
Excellent. Thanks, Mark. We have one more question over here.
Just a quick question. I work for a company that has 8 local pages as well as our brand page. And so I was wondering, what type of content do you recommend to have on those local pages?
That's a fantastic question. We're actually starting work with a company that has 1,000 local pages, and they eventually want a localized Google+ strategy for those. So I feel that pain in that strategy. That's a great question. I think if you can find a way to repurpose the content that you're creating for the main brand page in ways that's very specific, and by that repurposing, I don't mean just changing a few words, but get the local owner, the local franchisee, whatever it is involved in, okay, here's this great piece of content we have. Now, how can we work with you to make that specific to your audience, your locale, and then repurpose that content in some way? That's one thing that I would do in that regard.
Great, thank you.
That's a good one. Looks like we have one more over here.
G'day, thanks for that talk, it was really good. So my question is about brand pages versus kind of interest/community pages. And one of the things that I've noticed is when we've got a page like, I love being your ideal customer, or that kind of thing, they get a lot of traction. People just go around clicking them, liking them, following them, just because they like the idea. But versus a brand page. But then as you build that community, it seems to be too far detached from a brand. And I'm wondering, even though it's effective, like you're building the community, you're getting your customers, potential customers, is it actually worth it from an SEO perspective, or is it, faking it?
Yeah, this is the strategy. It's like people who just go out and get like Facebook likes, right? Like we want likes. Any like is good. Well, Facebook, if has gotten more smart about that. It's just not running up a bunch of likes from irrelevant people and maybe even people that are fake accounts or whatever, doesn't get you what it used to get you. So similar again, I think on Google+, I think, I don't know this for sure, but I would imagine that more and more they're going to be tracking. I think it does matter, for example, and will matter more and more in the future, what the subject of a community is that's associated with your brand page. So that it's relevant engagement, that it's about what your brand is about, what it talks about. I think that's a good long-term strategy for where we see Google going with entity search and all of those related things.
Great one.
Good time?
Rand has a quick question, right?
I just want to know, you said several things about increasing the authority of your Google Plus profile. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me, what does authority on Google Plus mean? How do you measure that and quantify it? And what benefit does it provide?
Okay. Well, first of all, how we measured that when we did the testing, and this is back when PageRank was more active, we used PageRank only because that's the only measure that we really had, because Google Plus pages and profiles do have PageRank. And so we could use that as a relative measure. And we looked at hundreds and hundreds of pages and profiles to see, like, why is this profile, PR7 and this one's a PR3? And what we found was, high correlation between who's engaging, how much engagement, and who's engaging within Google+. And then, as I said earlier, the external link profile also had a high correlation to that authority.
Did you see any correlation between the PageRank of those Google Plus pages and how the content shared performed in rankings?
In personalized search, yes.
Personalized search.
It's more likely to show up for the people in the extended network of the people that circle your brand if you have that higher authority, yes.
Excellent. It sounds like we have, Mark may have a bunch of questions after this, so after the community speakers, track him down.
I'll be around.
Apparently, you can find him on Google+.
Yeah.
Thanks, Mark.
It's great having a name like Mark Traphagen. It's very SEO friendly.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Mark.